All right, everyone. Next runner-up. I don't know if you know about her or any Korean movie fans. No? Well, she is. Zombie Express is one of her favorites. Another one of her favorite actors is Gal Gadot. Exactly. I don't know if you heard about her lately. No? Anonymous actress that somehow got the role of Wonder Woman. So, now we know. Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting about our next speaker, what she'll be talking about, is
that she's not connected to the microphone.
You're not connected to the mic. That she's not connected to the microphone. There we go. Phil's got it. Phil's got it. Let the captain do his work. Okay. Basically, get excited for it because I've been hearing that there was like, hey, I'm a front end user and I'm a back end. I don't know which one. So she fixes that problem. So she finds solutions, or she'll be talking about solutions for front end. So you guys can take care of your back end. So once again, please give a big, round, warm applause for our next speaker, Shmuela Jacobs.
Wow, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Is that okay? Oh yeah, now I have a microphone. All right, well, I'm really excited to be here, and it's my first time in Poland, and my experience so far has been really, really great. I've been here for a few days, and I really love the places and the people and the food and everything. So thank you for having me. And we're towards the end of the conference, and I've heard a lot of really great talks, and I enjoyed it a lot. I hope you have enjoyed it also. So I know you've already talked a bit about Firebase. Thanks, Eric. He did a really great introduction to my talk now. That's what it's for here. No, yeah, he really actually. I was inspired by his talks at first, so it's great to share the same stage here. Thank you. So just a little bit about myself before we go on. So I've been working with Angular and AngularJS for the past few years. I've been developing also with other languages, other stuff, and I just really fell in love with Angular. So that's what I do. And this is how you can reach me. And I'll have this slide also in the end, so when you're convinced that you want to talk to me. And also some stuff that I do in my free time. I'm the founder of ngGirls. That's an organization for promoting diversity in tech and in code and programmers. So the picture that you just saw there, it was from one of the events. That's also from one of the events, and we have women who are beginners in coding, maybe students, and they follow a tutorial with mentors and just code their very first web application with Angular. So that's really great. And we have also other activities for more experienced women. And we're just beginning. The first event was in November 2016. So we've got lots of more ideas. And if you want to organize an event wherever you are, really, you can just do it. You just need to find a place, and I'll give you everything you need, all the tutorial and all the help and the emails. And so really just go for it. Just talk to me about it. And if you have any other idea or would like to help in any other way, I'd really love to hear from you. Also, another thing that I do in my free time, I also organize the meetup group Angular Nights, where you learn Angular by coding from in workshops, from really using the keyboard, because otherwise it's a different experience. So that's in Israel, but I forgot to mention I come from Israel. But you know, we can do something like that wherever you are. So just talk to me. All right. So back to our topic. I prepared a demo application called OpenFire Cookbook. I really like enjoying the nature and having an open fire there and cooking some stuff. I just got a present, a poike pot, in which you can just put whatever you want and just put it in the fire, and it comes out like really, really tasty, whatever you put inside. So you can go even now to this link or scan the QR code. And I will have it for the next few slides, so I can go on with the presentation, and you can try out the application. It's just a demo. It's not perfect, really. There should be bugs. If there are, please tell me on GitHub. The code is on GitHub also. And watch this. Watch this. Are you ready? All right. All right, so I'm not going to talk a lot about Firebase, but because you've already heard a lot about it. But as a front-end developer who has experienced a little bit of a backend and other languages, I can say that it's a really, really great solution for anyone who's, if you want to, from making a proof of concept, or even if you're a startup or even a large company, it just takes care of everything you need on the back end. Database storage and hosting, and it scales according to the number of your users, and it gives you analytics, and in time when you have really so many users that you have to start paying for Firebase, it gives you a real great option for making money from your apps using AdWords, and so on and so on. Like when you start reading about Firebase, and not only Firebase, all the tools that it can integrate with, for example, Google Cloud, you just can't stop. There's so many things you can do there, and it can give you so many new ideas to what to do with your application and how to make it greater. We were talking here about progressive web applications with Firebase, and for example, one of the things that you can do with Firebase is send notifications to your users. So that's just one of the new features that Firebase provides you for web applications. Of course, Firebase is maybe known for great backend for mobile applications, but now they're moving very fast forward to being a great backend for any application, especially web applications. Okay, and I'm talking about Angular, of course. How many have you been working with Angular? Okay, is that Angular 2 or 4? All right, and Angular JS, Angular 1? All right, so you know what I talk about, right? If you love Angular, just give it a shout out, all right? Shout out to Angular, right? Yeah? Woo! All right, I love it. I fell in love with Angular just the moment I saw it. I've seen a few different frameworks, and when I saw this two-way binding that we saw earlier, this really that we're not using in any of our applications. Really at the end, but it's like, oh my god, this is the natural way to do things. So that's really great. So if you don't know, then Angular is now in version 4, but you don't have to be alarmed. It's not, it doesn't have many breaking changes or at all. If you've been writing your app in the right way, then Angular 2. So it's not like the change from 1 to 2. It's just Angular now, and it has semantic versioning. And we skipped version 3. Do you know why? Why? Yeah. Well, because, we're programmers, so that's just the way we count. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, right? All right. So Angular has a really great tool that you probably heard about, Angular CLI. In Hebrew, usually you just read the letters when you have this abbreviation, and Kli means tool. So I always say that you just read it wrong. It's not CLI, it's tool. It's a really great tool, Angular Kli. But okay, you can call it also command line interface. And if you don't know, you just about it, just try it out. It's so simple. You install it with npm or yarn, and just generate a project with this really simple short line of code and in the terminal, and you've got a whole project that's running, and like it's ready. It has tests inside. It's got all the good practices, and you can immediately run it on your browser and see that it works. And of course, it gives you the option to generate components and services and whatever you have in Angular, and to test it and to lint it and to build the project and so on. So and it keeps improving all the time. Okay, and then we have the library that gives you the integration between Angular and Firebase. That's AngularFire 2, because without the 2, it's for AngularJS. And you can do real cool stuff with that. I mean, you can use the the Firebase SDK without it, which is great. But with AngularFire, it gives you the option to do things more the Angular way with RxJS, like with our observables. So you can write lines of codes like that, where you use the async pipe to subscribe to in this case, the authentication observable. And then only if the value exists, then it will take a property that's on this object. So I think it really comes in naturally for Angular apps. And of course, you can use it alongside with the regular Firebase SDK, which you will need to use for storage, for example, and other features that Firebase can give you. Okay, so Firebase gives, like I told you, lots of cool features that really gives you a simple way to manage your server side or backend. For example, the authentication, and it does it the smart way with all the good practices. So here are just a few of the features that you have. So you can authenticate with email and password, or you can authenticate with some federated identity provider like Google and Facebook and GitHub and so on. And if there's some provider that is not supported by Firebase, then you can use Google Functions to authenticate with that. And there's smart user management, which means that if you authenticate using different providers with the same email, it will recognize you as the same person, as the same user. But also there's an option to cancel this. Then you will have separate accounts. And there's an option of anonymous user for users who don't sign in, but it still it saves their data anonymously, and when they choose to sign up, then it takes their data and and moves it to the new account that they created. There's the real-time database, and with AngularFire 2, you can, of course, take advantage of the real-time synchronization, read and write protection. You can read and write lists or objects, and like we saw before, you can use queries to get only the data that you want. And cloud functions. Well, I was really happy to see this feature because there are just things that you don't want to do on the client side. So, for example, I had this really big project where we had lots of objects with data. It's actually for different models with like graphical models with rectangles and ellipses, and they had names and all sorts of connections between them. So that's really a lot of data for a model, for a graphical model. And if you want to load one of those, you don't want to get all the data, the list of all the models that you can load with all the data that they have inside nested in these objects, right? So how would you do that? Okay, in Firebase, they actually tell you in the documentation that even though you can have nested objects, like I think 32 levels inside, you really shouldn't do that, because it's really, whenever you get an object from the higher level, you get the whole object, and you don't want to do that. So you need to keep a separate list of only the names of the models, like file names. So how would you do that? When you save a new model, would you do that on the client side? I think it's not really good practice, because on the client side, you know, there are like hackers even among us. I mean, I've done a few things on the client side in applications that didn't have this separation of what to do here and what to do in the server side. So I started looking for the different options in Firebase, and I saw cloud functions. And I said, oh, that's great, I'll start using that. And I started looking for tutorials and YouTubes. And then I realized that it was announced 2 days before I was looking at it. So that was really just in time for me for my work. So I'm really glad about it. To trigger a cloud function, you've got all sorts of triggers that are related to the database, whether when you update or put or delete something in a database or in the storage, and or cloud storage or authentication and everything you see here. And if you can't find the trigger that you want, then you just use an HTTP call. So this is a slide of how I set up my project. So I install globally Angular CLI, then I create a new application, and I usually use these prefixes, these flags, to create the application, because I want the style to be in Sass, and I usually give a prefix, although in this demo I just use the default one. And I want the inline template, and I want to add routing to my project. And then I go into my app, and I can already start it and serve it, and I'll just show you now. And then I also add Firebase and AngularFire, and to use the functions, I also install Firebase tools, and I can log in with my Google account, and I create a Firebase project within that. So I want to show you my application, if you haven't seen it. So basically, it's an application for recipes. I see that someone has already. What? What? How? What? How do I do that? Oh my god. Yeah. Thanks for that. Wait a minute. Here we are. All right. Okay. Now I have to look at the big screen because I don't want to. Okay. So, oh, wow, it's really big. Okay. So you got a list of recipes here. Like I said, there are some things I would add in the future, but basically it works. Whatever is marked in pink are my own recipes, and I can edit them. And I also can add a new recipe, of course. And those who are not marked in pink are someone else's recipes that I can just look at. And I see that someone has already added a test recipe, which, not a lot of details here, but maybe this test can be really tasty in an open fire. So please add more details, whoever you are. Okay, so you can see, maybe it's a little small. I'll get a little bigger. Okay, so you can, oh, thank you. So you can see that it updates in real time. I didn't do anything and it updated the, whoever you are, updated the title. And you can see there's the photo of the user who added the, logged in and added the recipe. And only this user can change, edit the recipe, and then we can see the changes. So I don't have here the edit button, but that's only like client thing, this button. But I also have on Firebase in the database rules, the rule saying that someone else can't edit my recipe. So that's really important. Like I said, there are things that you want to do in the server side, in the backend. Okay. Let's see a bit more. I can log out. There are different ways that I can sign in. Like right now, we have only integration with Google, but it's really easy to add GitHub and so on, whatever Firebase supports. And you can sign in with email and password, and you can also sign up and add your email, password, and it doesn't really check that you repeat your password right now. So you can, because I'm focusing on Firebase, not on the client side and the validation. This is for another talk. Okay, so where is my mouse? All right. So I guess I also want to show you the code. So I'm also going to move it. Where are you? Oh, okay. Well, wait a minute. I'll do something like that. Where is my mouse? Oh my God, this is really hard with this in the cinema. I don't see my mouse. Do you see it? Oh, here it is. Okay. I want to do this like that, and then I'll put the code over here if I find my mouse. Oh, actually, I can see it. I can see what's presented here, I think. All right. Awesome. Yeah, okay. Let's enter presentation mode. Okay, so you can find this code on GitHub, and under my user, that's Shmuel, SHMOOL. I heard once that things, companies, organizations, people that have O are really successful. So just took on this on this nickname, Shmuel. You know, Facebook, Google. Okay, so I'm just going to run this project, ngServe with the flag O, which means open, and it will open it on the browser. Okay, let's see it. So what you've seen until now is what's deployed in Firebase, and now you're going to see the local code, right? Which is actually a bit. I've already added a few features that weren't deployed, but maybe soon. I didn't want to risk it before the presentation. Let's see what the status is of the. Oh, here it. Compiled successfully. And here you have it here. And the thing is, I just created a whole project that doesn't depend on the server side. And we can check it with Augury. Do you know Augury? Okay. Oh, it's I guess everything large. Okay, so I can use here Augury. I'm just going to show you the login page. So I can use Augury to get to this sign-in component. It's not exactly a sign-in component. It's a user status component, where you can see the properties on this component. So, I have in this screen I have this timer, so I can't see everything. Okay, so we have here the user. It actually holds the user service as a member, and I can start changing that. Okay, so for example, if I change the authentication state to 0, then that's pending. And if I add a user, let's get it back to authenticated. Authenticated is 1. Okay, so you kind of get, it's supposed to be a smiley face there. And let's do JS Poland. That's the name of the user. Okay, so maybe it's just a bit. Here you can see all of it. And the user, if the user hasn't signed up with a provider, then they don't have a URL and a photo. So I just generate an avatar for them with the color. So let's say that's red. All right. Now also this avatar is consistent for the user, so it's not generated randomly every time you sign in. It is saved in the database of Firebase. So let's and of course you can do here the actions, but it's just using like set timeout, and it just gives this it's a hard-coded value. So let's go back to our code, and you can see that the user service is really using right now in the constructor. It uses this timeout and then says, okay, you're signed out, you don't have a user, and then you can sign in, and then you just generate a user, and so really just kind of a mock inside the service. So I want to check out the branch where I used exactly the same, well, almost all the same functions. I don't need to generate a user anymore when I connected to the database, but I connected this whole service to Firebase. Let's see if that's the one. No. Oh, sorry. Where is my head? It's a Git. Git checkout. Firebase. Okay, connect to Firebase. Okay. Now we see that this file has changed, but this is the service, so I didn't have to change anything in the component. The component gets the same data, so you can see the code later on and see that wherever Firebase gives an observable that we subscribe to, then it also happens when we're not connected to Firebase, and so on. So what we have here in the constructor, we use AngularFire auth, which just gives us an observable that listens to the state of the user all the time. And when the state changes, then we can, for example, route to a different place. So I can, for example, open routing service. I have it here. Can you see the code? It's good. It's large enough, right? Huge screen. So, for example, here I subscribe to the authentication state given by Firebase, and if I get a result, then we route to we navigate to the main page which is the cookbook. And if not, then we route to the sign-in page. Right? Let's go back to the service, to the user service. Now, another thing that we do here, we need more data about the service, even if about the user. Even if the user is authenticated with a provider, we might need more information about the user. And if not, then we need to generate a color of the avatar. So here we get more user details from the database, which means that whenever a user is signed up, we call a function which also generates the user record in the Firebase database. And we do this with the Firebase functions, because we don't want to do this in the client side. So I can show you here the functions that I just called Firebase init, and it's functions index. Okay. So there's also a function here to when you save a recipe, then it also saves it on a list. And here's the user. When a user is added to the users database, which is separated from our database, then you add it also to our database with additional data. So I don't have I have only 10 seconds remaining, and so really you can look at this code. So this is these are the important things that I wanted to show you. How you do things, how you add things to the database using cloud functions, how you authenticate using AngularFire. Okay, you can see you can sign in with Google and with a password, and you can sign up and you can sign out. And actually, just I'm sorry that I'm taking a minute more. When you write functions in the cloud, you can do stuff like console log, and this will log the events. Here, here is my console. You have here functions, and it just logs all the everything you logged, so you can actually see what data is available and so on. And if there are any errors, then you can also see it here. So really, really useful. I'm gonna jump right back to the slides and finish up. All right. So project setup. This is database rules, which this is the default. This is what you do when you start a project. You just give everyone all the permissions. This is what I did, which is really simple for the cookbook. This is, for example, what Eric did in his Fire chat, which is a really, really, really long file of rules for the database. You can deploy, of course, and it's really, really easy, just like this. And more in Firebase, you got more. And and this is me. And this is me. And I've had fun with you. I hope you had fun also. And if you have more questions, then you can, of course, talk to me, email me, tweet me, or just, come and say hi. Thank you very much.